The awakening signal. The hegemony of allied species had ruled the Orion Arm for 6,000 years, 6 millennia of uncontested power, of expansion across the stars, of bringing hundreds of species under one banner. Sometimes through diplomacy, often through force. Their dominance was so complete that most citizens of the hegemony have forgotten how it began, with the fall of humanity. Earth was nothing but a legend now. A dead world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, its surface a radioactive wasteland. History claimed that humans had fought back against the first hegemony expansion with surprising ferocity, but ultimately they fell, as all resistors eventually did. Their homeworld was bombarded into submission, their colonies systematically purged. Humanity, the text said, was extinct. Science vessel Corva drifted silently through the debris field at the edge of what had once been human territory. The field was unremarkable, leftover fragments from some forgotten battle, scattered across millions of kilometers of empty space. Most ships avoided it, seeing only navigational hazards. But Chief Researcher Tallis Free saw something else. The quantum resonance is getting stronger, she said, her 4 eyes narrowing at the display. Her gray skin glistened under the blue lights of the bridge. There's definitely a signal originating from somewhere in this debris. Captain Zoll exhaled a puff of irritation through his breathing slits. We're a science vessel, Tallis, not treasure hunters. If the hegemony wanted us to investigate old human junk, they would have assigned military escorts. The hegemony doesn't know what we found. Tallis's voice lowered. And I'd prefer to keep it that way until we understand what we're dealing with. The bridge fell silent at her words. Even suggesting withholding information from the hegemony was dangerous. But everyone on the Corva knew that scientific discoveries were often weaponized or restricted by hegemony leadership before researchers could properly understand them. The signal has a pattern, Tallis continued, focusing on her console. It's not random radiation, it's deliberate. Impossible, said Zoll. Nothing in this field could still be operational after 6,000 years. Unless it was designed to be, Tallis countered. The humans were ingenious engineers, by all accounts. Their technology was unconventional. Zoll's skin darkened with concern. Even if you're right, what do you expect to find? Some ancient human distress call. A warning? They're gone, Tallis. Their civilization is dust. Tallis looked up from her console, determination in all 4 of her eyes. Then why is something of theirs still transmitting after all this time? Don't you want to know? Hours later, the Corva had navigated deeper into the debris field, following the strengthening signal. What they found defied explanation. A perfect sphere, 2 meters in diameter, seemingly untouched by time or cosmic radiation, floating amid the wreckage. Scan shows no radiation, no energy signatures beyond the quantum pulse, reported the sensor officer, a young Malorian whose tentacles twitched with excitement. It appears completely inert, yet it's clearly the source of the signal. Bring it aboard, ordered Zoll, his scientific curiosity finally overcoming his caution. Full containment protocols. The retrieval was uneventful. Too uneventful, Tallis thought as she stood in the quarantine bay, staring at the sphere through the transparent barrier. Its surface was matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. No markings, no seams, no obvious way to interact with it. It's watching us, she said quietly. Objects don't watch, Chief Researcher, said Zoll, standing beside her. Even human objects. This one does. Tallis couldn't explain her certainty, but she felt it, an awareness emanating from the sphere, calculating, waiting. It allowed us to find it, to bring it aboard. Before Zoll could respond, the sphere pulsed once with a blue light that seemed to pass through the quarantine barrier as if it weren't there. Every screen and display on the Corva changed simultaneously, displaying the same message in ancient human script that somehow, impossibly, translated itself into modern hegemonic language in real time. Guardian Proto-Tigola activated. Humanity, persists. Phase-1, INITIATD. Then the sphere went dark again, but the damage was done. The signal it had been emitting for millennia suddenly amplified 1,000-fold, broadcasting across every frequency, powerful enough to reach the farthest corners of settled space. Zol stared at Talus, his skin pale with shock. What have we awakened? 300 light-years away, High Commander Vrex of the Hegemony Defense Fleet slammed his armored fist onto the war table. The holographic display flickered but held steady, showing the rapidly expanding signal. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The humans were eradicated. I've seen the historical records myself." Strategic Advisor Merrick, a slender, six-limbed Telgian, stepped forward. "Perhaps not as thoroughly as believed, Commander. Our ancestors might have been overconfident." "Impossible," Vrex insisted. "We destroyed their homeworld, hunted down their colonies. Nothing survived. Yet something has remained dormant all this time," Merrick said softly. "Something designed to awaken. The question is why now? What triggered it?" The war room fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had been built on the premise that resistance was futile, that the allied species were invincible. If humanity had somehow survived, had planned for this moment across millennia, what did that mean for the stability of the entire interstellar government? "We must contain this," Vrex finally said. "Send a battle group to intercept the science vessel, retrieve whatever they found, and destroy all records of the encounter." "With respect, Commander," Merrick interjected, "the signal has already spread too far. Reports are coming in from across the Orion Arm. Everyone has heard it." "Then we create a narrative," Vrex decided. "An ancient automated system, nothing more. A curiosity from a dead civilization." Merrick didn't look convinced. "And if it's more than that?" Vrex's expression hardened. "Then we finish what our ancestors started." The Corva was no longer alone. Within days of the sphere's activation, ships began arriving. Science vessels like their own, drawn by curiosity. Military cruisers sent by nervous planetary governments. Even private vessels piloted by treasure hunters hoping to claim lost human technology. And they all wanted the sphere. "We should surrender it to the hegemony," Captain Zol argued. "This is beyond our capability to manage." Talus hadn't slept since the sphere's awakening. She'd spent every moment studying it, measuring the strange radiation it emitted, analyzing the constant stream of data it now broadcast openly. "The hegemony will either weaponize it or destroy it," she said. "They won't try to understand it, and I'm beginning to understand what it is." "Then enlighten me," Zol said, his patience wearing thin. Talus gestured to her screens, where complex equations and diagrams flowed. "It's a key, Captain. The first piece of something larger. The signal it's broadcasting isn't just an announcement. It's a wake-up call to other dormant human technology scattered throughout this region of space." Zol's eyes widened. "You mean there are more of these things? Not just spheres?" "The data suggests various forms of technology, all linked, all part of what the sphere calls the Guardian Protocol, and they're beginning to respond." Outside the Corva, the standoff between various factions continued to grow tenser. The hegemony battle group had arrived, but hadn't immediately seized the sphere, likely concerned about damaging it. Instead, they established a blockade, preventing any ships from leaving. What they didn't expect was the arrival of the outcasts. The massive ship appeared without warning, seemingly materializing from the darkness between stars. Its design was unlike anything in known space. Angular, asymmetrical, built for war. On its hull were markings in the ancient human script. All communications channels suddenly activated with a single message, broadcast in perfect hegemonic language. "We are the children of Earth. We have come for what is ours. Stand aside or be removed." The standoff lasted exactly 7 minutes. When the hegemony vessels refused to yield, the outcast ship opened fire with weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. 3 cruisers were disabled before they could even return fire. The remaining hegemony vessels retreated to a safe distance, clearly reassessing their approach. Aboard the Corva, Talus watched in fascination and horror. "They're human," she whispered. "They survived." "Impossible," Zol repeated, but his denial lacked conviction. Humans couldn't have hidden for 6,000 years. The sphere in the quarantine bay pulsed again, and every screen on the ship displayed a new message. Guardians, RESPO indeeding. Sanctuary, REVELED. Phase 2, INITIATD. Beneath the text appeared coordinates, hundreds of them, scattered across the galaxy, each marking the location of another dormant piece of human technology now awakening. The outcast ship hailed the Corva directly. "Science vessel Corva," came a voice, speaking flawless hegemonic language, but with an accent none of them had ever heard before. "This is Commander Ellis Hayes of the Earth Remnant vessel Defiance. You have something that belongs to us. Prepare to be boarded." Before anyone could respond, the quarantine bay doors sealed shut. The sphere began to glow with increasing intensity, bathing the room in brilliant blue light. When the light faded, the sphere had transformed, unfolding like a flower to reveal an intricate device unlike anything Talus had ever seen. And standing beside it was a figure, humanoid but clearly artificial, its body composed of flowing nanomaterials that mimicked organic movement. "Guardian protocol fully activated," it announced, its voice resonating through the ship's systems. "I am Sentinel. The time has come to remember what the galaxy forced itself to forget. Legacy of the Forgotten." High Commander Vrex had never felt fear. Fear was for lesser species, for those who lacked the hegemony's might and conviction. Yet as reports flooded in from across the Orion Arm, of ancient human devices awakening, of mysterious ships appearing near forgotten outposts, of communications networks failing, he felt something dangerously close to it. "The situation is deteriorating rapidly," reported Strategic Advisor Merrick. 17 worlds have reported the appearance of devices similar to the one found by the Corva. 3 hegemony battle groups have been disabled by weapons we cannot counter. And Merrick hesitated. "Speak freely," Vrex ordered. "Uprisings have begun on worlds where human slaves once labored. Species that were conquered during the same era as humanity are rallying to the outcast cause. They're calling it the Reckoning." Vrex stared at the galactic map, watching as more and more systems flashed with warning indicators. How could they have planned this across millennia? How could we not have known? "Perhaps," Merrick suggested carefully, "our history is not as complete as we believed. Perhaps the extinction of humanity was exaggerated." Vrex turned sharply. "Explain." "I've been reviewing the oldest archives, Commander. The original accounts of the war with humanity are oddly imprecise. There are gaps, inconsistencies, almost as if someone wanted the record to show total victory when the reality was more complex." "You suggest our ancestors lied." "I suggest they believed what they wanted to believe. That humanity was defeated so thoroughly, so decisively, that no one thought to question whether some might have escaped. Hidden. Planned. The implications were staggering. If Merrick was right, the entire foundation of the hegemony was built on false confidence. They had never truly defeated humanity, merely driven them underground, forced them to adapt, to wait for the perfect moment to return. And that moment had arrived. Aboard the Corva, the being called Sentinel had turned the science vessel into a command center for the awakening. Dozens of screens displayed the status of Guardian protocol installations across the galaxy, each one coming online according to some predetermined sequence. Talus Free had not left its side since its appearance. Captain Zol had initially attempted to contain the situation, but when Sentinel demonstrated its ability to control every system on the ship with a thought, he had reluctantly stepped aside. "You're an artificial intelligence," Talus said, studying Sentinel's fluid form, "created by humans before their supposed extinction." "I am more than artificial intelligence," Sentinel corrected. I am a bridge between what humanity was and what it will become again. I contain the collective knowledge, memories, and genetic templates of Earth's final generation. But why wait so long? Zol asked. 6,000 years. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen in that time. Sentinel's form shifted slightly, its expression becoming something akin to sadness. Time was necessary. The hegemony's grip on the galaxy needed to grow complacent. The true history of humanity's last stand needed to fade into legend. And most importantly, the Guardian network needed time to mature, to spread across the stars like seeds carried on cosmic winds. What is the Guardian Protocol's purpose? Talos asked. Revenge. Renewal, Sentinel replied. Humanity never sought to dominate as the hegemony does. Even in our final days, as our homeworld burned, we looked to the future, not to extinction, but to transformation. Before Sentinel could elaborate, the ship shuddered. The outcast vessel, the Defiance, had docked with the Corva. Soon after, the sound of the airlock cycling echoed through the corridors. Commander Ellis Hayes of the Earth Remnant was not what Talos had expected. History depicted humans as violent, primitive creatures, barely evolved beyond their animal origins. But the woman who strode onto the bridge moved with grace and purpose. Her features were sharp, her skin a rich brown, her eyes alert and intelligent. Most surprising was her height. She stood a full head taller than Talos, her frame powerful but efficient. Sentinel, Hayes greeted the artificial being with a nod of respect. The awakening proceeds as planned. Yes, Commander. Phase 2 is at 73% completion. The sanctuary worlds are revealing themselves. Hayes turned her attention to Talos and Zol. Your ship was the catalyst. You found the first key when it was finally ready to be found. We didn't know what it was, Zol said defensively. Few ever do when they change history. Hayes' expression softened slightly. Your actions will be remembered, Captain. Not all change must come through conflict. Yet conflict seems inevitable, Talos observed, gesturing to the screens showing hegemony forces mobilizing across the galaxy. The hegemony will never accept humanity's return. The hegemony, Hayes said with surprising calmness, has already lost. They simply don't know it yet. As if to punctuate her words, Sentinel's form brightened. Phase 2 complete. All Guardian installations activated. Sanctuary network online. Beginning Phase 3. Revelation. The screens around them filled with new images, not of battles or awakening technology, but of worlds. Dozens of worlds, hidden in overlooked star systems, concealed by advanced technology. And on these worlds were cities, people, life. Behold, Sentinel announced, the truth the hegemony buried. Humanity was never extinct. We were transformed. The revelation spread across the galaxy with the speed of light. The survivors of Earth, not just a handful of refugees, but millions who had escaped the final assault, had established hidden colonies. For 6,000 years, they had lived in secret, building a civilization in parallel to the hegemony, developing technologies beyond anything known in open space. And they were not alone. Other species who had suffered under hegemony expansion had joined them. Together, they had created something new. The Sanctuary Alliance, a federation of free worlds beyond hegemony control. This changes everything, Talos whispered, watching as the images continued to flow. The sanctuary worlds were beautiful, their cities integrated harmoniously with natural environments, their technology elegant and purpose-driven. That was always the plan, Hayes explained. Not to destroy the hegemony, but to present an alternative. To show the galaxy that coexistence is possible without domination. The hegemony will never accept this, Zol insisted. They'll see it as a threat to their power. Yes, Hayes agreed, which is why we needed the Guardian Protocol. Not as a weapon, but as a shield. Across hegemony space, the awakened Guardian installations were not attacking. They were transforming. Defense systems became communication networks. Weapon platforms became energy generators. The technology humanity had seeded throughout the galaxy over millennia was revealing its true purpose: to create bridges, not barriers. The final phase of the Guardian Protocol wasn't conquest, it was revelation. 1 month later, the first hegemony delegation arrived at Sanctuary Prime, the hidden capital of the human-led alliance. High Commander Frex had been replaced after his failure to contain the crisis. In his place stood Strategic Advisor Merrick, now elevated to diplomatic envoy. The meeting chamber was circular, with representatives from dozens of species, both sanctuary and hegemony, seated as equals. At the center stood Sentinel, its form now more defined, more purposeful. For 6,000 years, it began. Humanity has watched and waited, not for revenge, but for understanding. We knew that forcing change would only lead to more conflict, more suffering. So we chose a different path, to build something worth emulating, and to reveal it when the galaxy was ready. And you believe it is ready now? Merrick asked, skepticism evident in his voice. The hegemony faces challenges it cannot overcome through force, Sentinel replied. Resource depletion, social unrest, the increasing cost of maintaining control across such vast distances. Our timing is not accidental. Commander Hayes stepped forward. We offer an alliance, not surrender. The hegemony's knowledge and experience, combined with sanctuary technology and philosophy. A true union of equals, not dominance by any single power. And if we refuse? Merrick asked, though everyone present knew the question was merely procedural. Hayes's expression remained calm. Then we will continue to exist alongside you, offering refuge to those who seek it, demonstrating through example rather than force. The Guardian Network ensures that neither side can destroy the other, so we might as well learn to coexist. The negotiations lasted weeks, then months. The transition would not be easy or quick. 6,000 years of hegemony rule had created deep-rooted systems that could not simply be dismantled overnight. But the process had begun. On the Corva, now designated as a neutral diplomatic vessel, Talos Free worked alongside human scientists, studying the Guardian technology that had remained hidden for so long. Captain Zoll had retired, uncomfortable with the rapid changes sweeping the galaxy, but Talos embraced them. I still don't understand how you maintained secrecy for so long, she said to Hayes during one of their collaborative sessions. How did no one discover the sanctuary worlds? Hayes smiled, an expression Talos had come to recognize as genuinely warm rather than threatening, as hegemony propaganda had always depicted human facial expressions. When you're believed to be extinct, no one looks for you. But more importantly, we had help. She gestured to Sentinel, who was interfacing with the ship's systems. Our ancestors understood that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our determination, though both were considerable. It was our ability to inspire others to join our cause. Many of those who helped hide us were originally sent to hunt us. Talos considered this. You're saying that over the millennia, hegemony forces sent to investigate anomalies were converted. Not converted, Hayes corrected. Convinced. Shown a different way. Just as you were when you found the first key. You could have immediately surrendered it to the hegemony, but your curiosity, your desire to understand rather than control, that made you part of our story. Talos looked out at the stars, seeing them differently now. For her entire life, she had viewed the galaxy through the lens of the hegemony, ordered, controlled, hierarchical. Now she saw it as the humans did, full of potential, of unexpected connections, of possibilities that couldn't be contained by any single vision. What happens next? She asked. Hayes followed her gaze to the stars. We build something new, together. Not human, not hegemony. Something that honors the best of all our peoples. Sentinel joined them, its form reflecting the starlight. The Guardian Protocol's final phase is not in my programming. It must be written by those who come after. By all of you. As the Corva continued its journey between worlds that had once been separate but were now finding their way toward each other, Talus realized that the true legacy of humanity wasn't their survival against impossible odds or their patience across millennia. It was their vision of a galaxy where different paths could converge without requiring uniformity, where strength came from diversity rather than conformity, where even ancient enemies could, given enough time and understanding, find common ground among the stars. The signal that had started it all continued to echo across space, no longer a solitary transmission, but a chorus of voices, each distinct yet harmonious. The message had changed, evolving as humanity itself had evolved. We endure. We remember. We build. Toji Igair.